Maybe I don't have to quit my job, leave everything behind, travel the world to look for this purpose. Maybe it's something that I can find in my day to day, to travel inwards and to realize, what am I actually doing here on this planet? Welcome to a new episode of Beyonder the podcast. I'm your host V, and in Beyonder the podcast we go beyond borders, not just country borders, but also inner limitations. And I talk about inner and outer journeys. And in this solo episode today, I want to talk to you about a topic that you see a lot in the coaching industry and that a lot of people often get confused about. And it's this topic of finding your purpose. And I feel that this has become like a really big thing. And people often feel like, oh, if I don't know what my purpose is, then I'm lost. I don't know what to do in my life. And in this episode, I want to reflect on this and look at it in a little bit of a different way. Because I used to think like that as well. I was like, oh, I need to find my purpose. And I thought it was linked to my job. And it put a lot of pressure on myself because I was like, oh, do I like the job I'm in right now? Does this really give me purpose? Do I have to change? And I noticed this in the people around me as well. Like so many people who feel like, oh, I want to quit my job and do something else. And it's because of this search for purpose, for meaning in their life. And I've been thinking about this in my own journey as well. If I look back in my whole career so far, I started as an immigration lawyer. I became a Latin dance teacher and afterwards a Zumba instructor. I've done modeling. I am a co-author of a book right now, a podcast host. I became a travel coach, a life coach, a meditation teacher, like so many different things. And it's like, okay, do I have to choose one of those and make it my full-time job, or can I do a combination of them? And I think that's often what happens with purpose. We feel like that we can find it in one job. It's like, okay, if I find my dream job, then that's my purpose. And because I've been doing so many different things over the years, I realized that, at least for myself, yes, it's possible to find purpose in your job, but it doesn't mean that your job is your purpose. Perhaps your job is just an expression of yourself, part of yourself, because there's so many different aspects of yourself. So in my case, that's why I love to do so many different things, because I feel like when I do those different things, different parts of me come out. Here in the podcast, I can reflect with you. I can share things that are on my mind. I can connect with you. But then, for example, when I'm coaching someone, I really have this one-on-one connection that I love. But also when I'm on stage teaching a Zumba class, it's a totally different energy. I'm, smiling, dancing, making sure that everyone has a fun time together and a good workout. So those are really different parts of me that come out in the different things that I do. So if I would link my purpose to my job, I would get super confused because I would feel like, oh, I have to choose between one of those. I'm doing too many things at the same time. What am I doing? So I started reflecting on this. And what I realized is that perhaps we shouldn't be searching for our purpose in life, but we should search for the purpose of life. Or maybe not even search for it, but just realize or sit with this question and think for yourself, okay, what is actually the purpose of life for me? And if you think about it in that way, maybe it's not so much about the job, but it's more about how do you want to feel? Or how do you want to grow as a person? What do you want to experience in your life? Or how would you like to contribute? And when you start answering those questions for yourself, it's very interesting to see what comes up, because maybe you realize, okay, maybe I don't have to quit my job, leave everything behind, travel the world to look for this purpose. Maybe it's something that I can find in my day to day. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with quitting your job and traveling the world. I think it's actually a beautiful way to go on this journey of self-discovery. And if you have been listening to my podcast, I've had quite a few guests who have been on that journey as well. And they share their insights along the way, what they've learned mostly of themselves while they were traveling the world, but also traveling inwards. So it's definitely an option to explore. But I'm just saying we don't all have to do that to realize what our purpose can be in life. Maybe it's tuning in and realizing without going anywhere where externally to travel inwards and to realize, okay, what is the point, right? What am I actually doing here on this planet? What is the point of this human experience? And I've gone down, I would almost say, this rabbit hole because I can really reflect on this and go really deep. And what it came down for me in this deep inner journey was actually a very simple answer, something I maybe didn't expect. And it was like, okay, what if we're here to just enjoy ourselves? What if joy or happiness, if you would like to call it that, is actually the whole purpose of life? And I know it sounds so simple, and you might think, okay, but we cannot just be happy all the time. That's not the point. But to treat happiness or joy as part of the journey instead of a destination that you need to reach someday, I think that can already change your whole perception and experience of life, because we often, as I said in the beginning, put so much pressure on ourselves to find meaning in life, to reach goals. And in a way, we can lose track of what life is actually really about. And I think when we really go back to this simple foundation of maybe I can just enjoy my life or enjoy it as much as possible, find happiness maybe just in the little things, even when I'm having a really bad day, just to find a silver lining in something small. Maybe just in looking out of the window and seeing the sunshine, or having a nice meal, or just having a nice conversation with someone, whatever it might be. But to find these silver linings throughout your day, if we start living like that, if we start living more from this place of presence and finding joy in the small things, that eventually becomes the purpose. Because then it doesn't matter if you have a shitty day at work, or if you feel like, okay, maybe I need to make a career change, because then it doesn't come from a place of lack, but it comes from a place of, okay, maybe this is not it for me. Let me figure out what is next. And it becomes exciting. So this is something I've been experimenting with and have been reflecting on. And I would love to know how you see this, if this resonates with you, if you perhaps also have been feeling this pressure of, oh, I have to find my purpose. Maybe I have to do something else. And it feels like everyone has figured out what they want in life, but I'm just lost. I don't know if what I'm doing now is the right thing to do, if I should do something else, if it makes sense to do different things at a time. Just take a step back and take a deep breath. Let's do this together right now. Just take a breath in and breathe out. And just experience a moment of joy, just simple joy. Just having this conversation together now, and just taking this moment to reflect and see, maybe I don't have to put so much pressure on myself. Maybe I'm allowed to enjoy my life, to really give yourself permission to add some joy into your life. And it can be a very small thing, or it can maybe be a big thing to really go after your dream. If there's something that you have been thinking of for a long time, but maybe you feel like, oh, I don't know, maybe it's not reasonable to do this. It doesn't make much sense. I think the things that often give us the most joy are the things that don't make much sense. And that can mean, for example, moving across the world like I did. People would think like, why would you leave everything behind when everything is going so well? But deep inside of me, I felt like, no, maybe it looks great on the outside, but from the inside, it doesn't bring me joy. And then it's okay to make a change, whether that means a big life change, like moving countries or changing careers. for example, all those big shifts, yes, they can really make a big impact on us. But perhaps it's also just something small. Maybe you're like, no, I don't need a big change right now, but I feel like I'm not fully appreciating the life that I'm living right now. I feel like maybe something is still missing and I don't know what it is. Start exploring that feeling and see if you can make little tweaks in your daily life. For example, what really helps me when I feel like that, and I also feel like that right now sometimes, right? It's not just because I moved countries that then suddenly, all your problems go away. If you have been listening to the podcast, you know that there have been challenges here as well. I will link a few episodes below in the show notes if you want to know more about this journey, in which, for example, I also have an episode with my husband in which we reflect on our first 6 months in Sydney and the challenges that came with that as well. So it doesn't mean that life is always perfect just because I moved to another country. But when I feel like I'm having an off day, I try to really think about, okay, what is it that can make my day a little bit better? Maybe I go outside and treat myself to a nice matcha and just sit in the vibe of this coffee place and just look around and see what other people are doing. Sometimes just doing something simple like that actually gives me motivation. Or I go on a walk and just look at the ocean and enjoy the nature around me. And sometimes I don't even feel like leaving the house. Like yesterday, I just spent the day on the couch reading a book that I love. And just having like a self-care day like that for me. It's really about those small things that can make a big difference. So if there's something that I want you to take away from this episode, is to really ask yourself, instead of asking yourself, what is the purpose in my life? To ask yourself, what is the purpose of life in general? How do I want to experience life? How do I want to grow? How do I want to contribute? And if you answer those type of questions, you will find much more clarity and it will take the pressure away because you're tuning into this place of joy and fulfillment. And then meaning comes along the way. And as I said before, it's definitely not a destination to reach. It's a journey in itself. And your purpose in that sense, if you would link it more to a job or to what you do or to what you want to experience in life, it can change over time. For example, I mentioned all of the jobs I've done, right? So far. I also one time had the opportunity to become a scuba dive guide to take other people on scuba dives. It was during a vacation when I was in Mexico and was diving a lot there. And the dive school invited me, like, hey, wouldn't you want to start a career in this? And at that time, it was not the right phase for me because I was still studying as well. So it wasn't the moment. But sometimes I look back on that and I was like, I wonder, what if I had said yes? I would have gone on a completely different career path. But maybe I can still do it one day if I want to. Or maybe it doesn't fit in my life anymore right now. But it was cool to think about it back then. Or who knows what shows up. I'm also going to do a few new things in the coming months that are also completely different again. And it helps me to explore a new part of myself again. And I will share more of that in the coming episodes when that unfolds. And I'm very excited to share that journey with you as well. But what I'm trying to say is that we never stop evolving. We can always try something new, even if it doesn't make sense to anyone. If you feel this inner spark, or if your intuition tells you, hey, maybe this is something cool to check out, even if it feels like it doesn't lead to anything, it could be just a creative moment, for example. You never know what it leads to. And maybe it's just following those little sparks of joy throughout our life that eventually gives us that purpose that we're looking for. But actually, it brings the purpose back in those moments instead of reaching for it as a destination. So I'm going to leave you with that reflection for now. I would love to hear what you think of this, how you experience this in your life. If you have any questions about this, you can always send me a DM on Instagram or send me an email. or you can leave a comment below this episode as well. And don't forget to follow and subscribe. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you in the next one.